Morning and welcome, Patriot News Hour. Joe and Jason, Friday. I hope it finds you well out there. We are going to close early today. It is Memorial Day weekend. So everybody, please have a wonderful weekend. The station will be closed. Patriot will be closed on Monday. If you need to buy some gold and silver, you can go to allamericangold.com. 24 hours, 7 days a week. Then we'll be back again on Tuesday. For all you vets out there, thank you very much. And for those that paid the ultimate sacrifice, well, we thank you for what you have done for all of us. And let's hope, right, we don't screw it all up. And, you know, we got to cover it. I hate covering it now. Where are we? There's no deal yet. So yesterday's report of a deal was not correct. We kind of figured that out when we actually read the deal. Not aware of any meetings, any visits, at least the Pakistani government saying that they're not aware of any meetings taking place. We did get a report yesterday that we are losing 8.7 million barrels a day. And the question is, how long, right, until that I don't know. Listen, it's been longer than I thought as we are getting ready to end the month of May. But obviously, we won't be able to do that forever. And oil is up today, but it's not anything too terrible, up a couple of dollars. Kevin Warsh is being sworn in. Matter of fact, it's happening right now. He is being sworn in as the new head of the Federal Reserve. And boy, you know, I remember when Ben Bernanke took over, right? Things are starting to get a little squirrely at the end of Alan Greenspan's time, and things are absolutely squirrely right now, as we know the countries around the world dumping U.S. treasuries. And let's be honest about it. I think it's mostly out of need, right? Maybe with the exception of the Chinese and a few others, most of this is because they have no other choice. We learned yesterday that Turkey sold all but $1.8 billion of U.S. Treasury. So they sold it all. They left, I guess, would be considered the minimum amount. We will close early today, and by early, we're talking like noon. We won't be back till Tuesday for the Memorial Day holiday. I hope you all have a great holiday. Before you do, get your gold and silver bought. If you want to get into or have questions about Orem or Iskander. By the way, Iskander hit the exchange this morning, the Bitmart exchange. So the second coin is off and running, and I think we've made a lot of improvements. Don't forget, we do need you guys to start RSVP. And I know I haven't told you locations yet, but this is a great opportunity to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. June 5th, somewhere in northern Colorado, possibly the radio station. But I think we're going to do something a little better than that. We're going to feed you and all that stuff. 7 p.m., we know that. Friday, start letting us know that you're attending so we can get a head count. And then Phoenix, same thing. Phoenix, let us know. It's going to be Monday the 15th, 7 p.m. Location coming. We'll have locations next week. We're just trying to get our arms around all of it. But just call us 800-951-0592. So let's take a quick look at the market. The Dow is up 300 points. One of the big things today, we did get consumer confidence all-time record low, right? We've got that weird thing where stocks are at all-time record highs, yet nobody likes the economy, and yeah, right? It's bubbles. The Dow's up 300, the S&P up 40, the NASDAQ up 170, the 10-year note 458. So at least the first attempt at 466 above that didn't hold, which probably not surprising. We'll see what the second attempt looks like. Crude oil, as we said, up a couple of dollars. $98 on NYMEX, 105, 104 on Brent crude, still a little lower than what we started the week at. Gold, right? Okay, oil's up, gold's down, right? This is kind of the pattern it's been in. 45.15. You know what's so funny? That's where we were right at this exact moment yesterday. And then, of course, we got, there's a deal, and then gold took off. And then everyone realized, wait, that's not a deal. So 45.15, and silver 75.55, down $1, as again kind of this same pattern that we've been locked into since the war pretty much got going. But again, I think more and more people are starting to worry about the bond market. What is Kevin Warsh going to do? Obviously, he was selected for one reason, right? To lower interest rates. Kind of seems like, I don't know that he can, right? I mean, maybe, but right now, with all of the rest of the world seemingly having to sell, and again, like I said, I don't know that it matters. Well, are they selling because they want to, right? They just want to hold less dollars. We've been seeing that really since the financial crisis. It's worth noting that since the financial crisis, and really since before, central, it's funny, they know ahead of time. But up until that point, so when Richard Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, that kind of stopped people from selling treasuries and buying gold. It did. It stopped it. Matter of fact, by the time the 90s rolled around, Alan Greenspan, the Maestro, all of that stuff. By the time that rolled around, the central banks that held a lot of gold sold. Right? You guys know this. Every year, hundreds, in some cases thousands of metric tons. Culminating when the UK dumped all of their gold right during, of course, timing and everything, right during the Y2K bubble, right? And the .com bubble. And gold hit $255. It's crazy, right? To think, God, gold got that cheap, yeah. And then and they actually, and most of the selling was European nations, right? This is going back to, remember the Spaniards and the Portuguese, the French, the British, right? They were colonizing the world and, taking all the gold, and the Italians and all. So they had tons of gold, tons of it. Even Germany. Well, the original European Union countries, before the, as the EU was coming together, as the euro was coming together, they decided, hey, let's stop competing against ourselves, and let's set a limit, a maximum limit to how much gold we can sell. And that limit was 500 metric tons. And it didn't matter, if France sold first, or Spain, or Germany, or the UK didn't have any more gold. But they all agreed as a block they would not sell more than 500 metric tons. Well, guess what? They sold 500 metric tons in 2000, 2001, 2003, 2002. 2003, they didn't hit the quota. And by 2005, it had essentially stopped. And then something really weird happened around 2006. Central banks started buying gold. Yeah, we went, almost a couple of decades? Maybe a little more? Maybe 3 decades? Where no central banks bought any gold, and all they did was sell. Now we're, 20 years into central banks being net buyers of gold. And as you know, up until this year, so go back to 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, we're essentially setting records. The previous all-time record was 1969, right before traditionally closed. The reason why we closed the gold window is the United States, could you imagine, we had 20,000 metric tons of gold. That's what they said, 20,000 metric tons. After World War II. Right? They took all the gold from us. World War II's over. They got 20,000 metric tons. By 1971, we were down to 8. Right? And we'd gonna essentially, by 1980, we would have been out. Right? So they shut it. Said, hey, nope, can't do that anymore. Kind of a default, because it said in the contract you could. And now, ever since 2006, there's been some selling, but it's really usually small. Like here's 4 or 5 tons. Turkey would always have a month where they'd sell a lot, but then they'd always buy more. But by and large, really no selling. None to speak of. None notable selling in the market. Just buying. Nothing but buying. And the dollar as a percentage of reserves keeps falling. Right? So go back before the financial crisis. We're talking 70, 80% of all the reserves in the world were held in dollars. Right? Now we're what? 50, I don't want to get it wrong. Somewhere between 54 and 56%. And of course, now gold is the second largest holdings. When you add up all the holdings of all the central banks, the dollar is still number one. Gold is number two. Second. The euro is a very distant third. Right? The only question really is, when is gold going to pass the dollar? And all the rest of them are so small, they're insignificant.
I don't know how he's in. I was able to click him in from here. I couldn't get that.
And I bring this up because
I had to clear out of that.
That was all done.
I can't hear anything.
Not because of me.
He's talking. It's working. So
that was done because
I'm going to give him the visual cues here in 2 minutes.
they knew, trouble is coming. Trouble is coming to fiat money. And of course, who's the biggest fiat money holder? Right, the United States. Now, doesn't mean that we would be the first to collapse, right? We're the biggest, we'll probably be the last. But for over 20 years now, the world's been preparing. And I've always said they never fixed the financial crisis, right? I mean, just think about what that was on. Remember what they blamed it on? The banks. It's the banks' fault. They had all these bad loans and blah, blah, blah. And of course, where was the Fed? Where was the oversight, right? No one wants to talk about that. Right? Where were these guys doing their job? They were asleep at the wheel. But they never fixed it. Matter of fact, the banks are even bigger. They're not smaller. You know what's so funny is we allowed them to get bigger in the 90s. We had a law. There was a law saying you can't get this big. When did we make this law? Oh, after the Great Depression, when the banks caused the last one. But they, we've learned our lesson now. We've learned our lesson. We're going to be great. I know we're coming up on a break here, but we're going to finish this story. We're going to finish this story when we get back. Stay with us.
Use words like no,
800-951-0592. Silver's approaching back to $76. Here we go. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. But here's what we're talking about, and the worry and the bubble. And we're seeing it here. We're seeing it in Korea. We're seeing it in Japan. We're seeing it really everywhere. Especially like today. Why are they happy today? Consumer confidence hit an all-time record low. Yeah, never been more miserable. Black Friday, 9/11, financial crisis, really? Yeah, cost of living, first order of concern. By the way, 50% of consumers say it's become a huge problem. And we're talking about central banks choosing to hold less debt. So how do they hold dollars? They hold it in treasuries. Same thing. How do they hold euros? Treasuries, right? Again, treasuries. They hold it in debt because, see, they know they don't keep the money in the bank. $250,000. They know that. Come on. We don't have enough money to cover. I think we can cover 1% of all deposits with with what they have set aside. But we went through 20 years of them doing it because they wanted to. Selling dollars, selling debt, and buying gold. That has now changed. That's still happening, right, to a certain degree. That hasn't stopped. But now we've got a new element. I have to sell dollars to buy oil, to buy jet fuel, to buy diesel, to buy food, to buy fertilizer. This is something that, and I've been doing this now for 23 years? We've never seen. Kind of like the first time. And not that Turkey is an important country, but they've had their issues in the past. They've been known to sell a lot of gold, to buy a lot of gold. They've been known to sell treasuries when they've had to, not to this extent. Right? We know like Argentina, Vietnam, right? Countries like that, hey, yeah, they're part of the world system, but they're not that important. Because we've seen smaller countries and smaller economies, whether it was COVID as an example, that's the easiest one, where they may have had to sell some dollars, right, to buy stuff. And I warned a few weeks ago, the longer this Iran thing goes, the worse this gets. And I mentioned Japan, South Korea, the UK as potential targets where out of necessity they needed to sell dollars. March, it happened. I don't have data for April or May yet. But yesterday I told you, see, they're really good at making it seem simple. Well, they had $9.49 trillion worth of U.S. debt. And so 949, it doesn't sound like that much. And now they got 9.2, whatever it was. In 1 month, in 30 days, world economies, and again, who knows, could have been companies, right? Could have been insurance companies. I don't know that. I doubt it, but could have been. Could have been a money market, maybe. Not normally, but between central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and companies, $240 billion of government debt was sold in a single month. And of course, when we start look at what our treasury rates have been doing, like going back really to March, right? I mean, we got down to, we were above 4, but there was a few, we got in the 14s, right? 418, 419, something like that. Never above 440. And when the news broke about Japan, Right? We saw it go all the way to 467. And, of course, now as time's gone on, now we know Japan sold, we know Turkey sold, we know China sold, right? We still don't have all the bodies yet. And the question is the obvious one. Did they have to sell again? Did they have to sell in April? Did they have to sell in May? Are they going to have to sell in June? And the answer is yes. Right? By all accounts, yeah, it looks like yes. That's the situation they've been forced into. And it's funny because I told you about Turkey. They sold all of theirs, pretty much. I mean, they left the bare minimum. And then they had to sell some gold. Right? Russia, they don't have treasuries. Right? So they were selling gold. But now that oil prices are up, they don't have to sell gold anymore. Notice how, though, these other countries, they either don't have gold to sell or they're like, nah, we're going to sell the treasuries and keep the gold. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back on 800-951-0592. And I can't encourage you any more than I already have of being your own central bank. These are the choices that they're making. China could easily sell their gold instead of treasuries, but they're not. Japan, let's face it, what are their citizens doing? They're buying gold. Korea, buying gold. They've never been gold buyers before. They're buying gold now. India, I know they've raised the tariffs on gold and silver. They haven't sold their gold. And I guarantee you they're on the list of selling treasuries. They're on the list of selling treasuries. Right now, the only central bank selling we've really seen was from two countries, Russia, who now that oil's back over 100, it's like, never mind, right? We're good. We're cool. Of course, did they have any U.S. treasuries? Nope. In Turkey, of course, what did Turkey do before they sold their gold? They got rid of all their treasuries first. And then, of course, I will say this, Turkey turned around the next month and bought some of that gold back. And that's important to highlight. So yesterday, I ran a stupid price, $45.95, 10 or more, $45.75. Today, how about $45.75, 10 or more, $45.50. Gold is at $45.20. There you go. At 800-951-0592. Be your own central bank. You've heard me tell it to you numerous times. And the question is, when we're looking at this, do we think rates will go lower or rates will go higher? Right? That's the debate. And unfortunately, this war was supposed to be quick. Couple of weeks. 2-3 weeks, it'll be all done. Well, here we are. The longer this goes, the higher the inflation. And Jason, here's the sad part. We've gone past the point for a lot of products that price increases are coming. We heard the Walmart CEO yesterday, right, saying, hey, we've been eating it, but we can't keep eating it, right? And by the way, the consumer's slowing down. It's going to be...
Shrinkflation is is in full bloom right now. Same price, but a different package and a different amount of ounces, right, Joe? Shrinkflation is rampant right now. The boxes are still big, but there's hardly anything in them, right? It's like that Christmas prank. I don't know if you've ever done that, Joe, where you have some small gift you're giving to somebody, so you wrap it in one box, then you wrap it in another box, and you wrap it in another box. The person thinks they're getting this huge box. After all said and done, they get like a couple silver eagles in the little box, or maybe a quarter-ounce gold piece, something like that.
Jason has been encouraging me to come up with our own shrinkflation. And I think when we get back from Memorial, for the first time ever, I may start selling individual silver eagles as an example. I think that may be coming, if not at least half rolls, right? Things that can allow for more people. Because at the end of the month, I get it. They're like, hey, Joe, you know what? At the end of the month, I just got less dollars.
Yeah, the premium on a single silver eagles is going to be pricey. But I know there's a lot of guys out there that, you don't want to buy dimes. You can't afford a full roll of silver eagles. So the way I look at it, if you want .999, the best way to do it is we'll break rolls. You'll pay an extra premium for us to have to call people in for a 1 or 2 or 6 silver eagles. And you can start stacking your rolls yourself at whatever pace you're at, Joe. And I like taking care of the small guys best we can. Today's small buyer is tomorrow's big buyer, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something where, and I know a lot of people are like, well, gosh, I want to wait and see. Here's the thing. Here's the other thing, if you need a little more motivation, besides this great price. We have seen how many times, any time the war's over, right, or almost over. Oh, I think we've got a deal. Gold and silver start taking off again. So today it's great, right? Because really we've seen what appears to be the bottoms in gold and silver, at least right now through this whole little event, right? Gold gets in the $4,400 range, but never stay right. Seems like as soon as it'll go below $4,500, and the very next day it's back above it. Silver, like $70, like it doesn't go lower, and really, silver doesn't seem to like to go below 72, and then it goes right back up. So we got silver, 75, 76, right near there. Gold, barely above 4,500. Guys, this is kind of buying the bottoms here. 800-951-0592. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. $20 gold pieces, $45.75. 10 or more, $45.50 at 800-951-0592. It's kind of an interesting day. We're getting Kevin Warsh being sworn in by the president, our 11th Federal Reserve president in the modern era. By the way, by far the wealthiest Federal Reserve president. Wonder what that effect will be. And we talked about, okay, there's need-based selling. It's like, think about for people where they're like, hey, I got gold and silver, but I need money and I'm out of, right? I'm selling it out of need, right? A lot of you know what that feels like. That's what's happening right now to countries. Selling it out of need. Why? Well, I can't issue any more debt. I mean, the debt I've already, and they're all running deficits, right? But they're like, I can't go out and tell the market, oh, we need to borrow another $240 billion, right? They're like, yeah, no. So they sell dollars. Fitch, U.S. private credit defaults hit an all-time record high in April, 6%. That's nuts. Of course, This is behind the scenes, right? What were stocks doing in April? Hitting all-time record highs, yet credit defaults. According to Fitch, 10 private credit defaults in April alone in industrials, manufacturing, and business services. 7 involved distressed maturity extensions. Yeah, can't redo things here. And by the way, the rates may reach 10%, according to Fitch. So we've created a lot of debt. We've created a lot of money. Yesterday, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, oh my gosh, wait, maybe the M2 money supply does matter. And Jason, right, we're just seeing the cracks, right? Nothing's broken. I mean, it was hilarious. If you go back, people forget, we have short memories. But before the market, the market really didn't collapse until 2008. But August of 2007 was when Ben Bernanke was talking about raising rates. And then all of a sudden, we had a debt spiral. And then Lehman Brothers goes under. And then in March, Bear Stearns goes under, right?
Sure feels like the same situation.
Same setup, isn't it? And it's just going to be a little different as to who goes under. This time, we may have whole entire currencies go under.
Yeah, I don't know if whole entire currencies will go under, Joe. There's going to be let's just say that there'll have to be another Freedom of Information Act that'll take a decade to find out what they did. Because it was $29 trillion instead of $5.5 trillion. That's what it ended up being. What is
800
what will be this time?
800-951-0592. Remember, we'll be back on Tuesday.